We will start with a bow and the four great vows. Bow. The four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all again. We are going to continue on with my series entitled Living. And it's a series that I'm kind of trying to meld in the profound Buddha doctrine with the practice itself. A lot of you ask me, how do you practice? You know, if we understand this, are we just understanding this on an intellectual level, or are we doing something deeper? And the thing is that we understand the doctrine, but we need to put it into motion. And we put it into motion in our daily lives. But then you say, well, how do we put it into our daily lives? In order to put it into our daily lives, we have to kind of understand what we're putting into daily lives, and also what is our daily life? What is this? And I seem to have found a way to try to connect the esoteric with the everyday living. Now, when I refer to esoteric, it isn't necessarily doctrinally like the esoteric school. Only the term esoteric meaning something that is intimate, perhaps intrinsic, perhaps secret, something that we cannot with our samsaric eyes see, or samsaric ears hear, or touch. It is something that is beyond these, yet not separated from these. And this is something that's important that we begin to look into. But then when we talk about emptiness, for instance, and we talk about emptiness, we start thinking about outer space or somewhere where there's nothing. But this isn't the kind of nothingness that emptiness is. So it's very difficult for us to meld these kinds of profound concepts into our daily practice as to what we're doing. It does mean something. The practice of Buddhism and the idea of emptiness is not a nihilistic way of saying that nothing matters, nothing exists. It is coming from a viewpoint that it says that it is non-existent nor non-existent. It is something that just there is a thusness to it. And before we have a slice of cake, we have a cake. If we slice the cake, does that mean that the cake no longer exists? Well, you give a good enough cake and a good enough size of people in half an hour, perhaps it won't exist in the same form as it was. But in any case, the cake is something that's there. It's always been there, even before it was a cake, constantly connected with everything else. This is difficult for us to understand. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you today, I will say, we don't understand this. It's okay. It's okay not to understand things. Most people go around looking for a master that will lecture them about what they already know. They think, oh, this master is so good. I understood everything that master said is amazing. He's so clear. And if I began to talk about the Four Noble Truths and suffering, and the cause of suffering, cessation of suffering, and enlightenment, you would all be so enamored with it because you've heard it so many times and you understand it. And you say, Gilbert, he's a good one. I understand everything that he says. It's amazing. He really talks right to me. Pardon me, but I'll use a little bit profane vernacular, but that's bullshit. I'm sorry about that and saying it in that way. But life, it's too short. And it's too important, too precious to be wasting on something that I'm going to take an hour of your time to tell you something that you already know. Why tune in? Just to say, oh, him and I were like this. I understand everything he says. And they think, oh, this master is so good. He's understandable. And then there are students like you, like most of my students. I make them feel uncomfortable about what they know, and even more uncomfortable about what they don't know. With sincere practice, they can make great progress. With shallow roots, they tend to head towards the understandable masters to listen about what they already know. So why should I lecture if people already know what I'm going to say? That's of no value. My barometer tells me that I should move towards what I'm seeing in the audience. And that's why I always ask you to turn on your cameras if you can. No, unless you're there and you kind of ready for bed and you have curlers in your hair. I don't have that problem. But you know, I want to see your faces. I want to see how you're looking. When I speak to a live audience or a Zoom audience, I want to see how people are responding. No, are they giving me a nod, like saying, yes, I understand this? Or are they quizzical? What? Or puzzled? Or like the face that I saw on one person in a San Francisco retreat when I said he was a dream and he doesn't exist. That's a good reaction. I got that person's attention. I don't exist. And part of me is looking at him going, that's right, you don't exist. The other part's talking to the crowd. But the thing is that that's important. That's important to know what people are doing to push them beyond that. So if we just do this and I just keep saying the same thing over and over again, it will be of no value because you already know that. Why tune in? You know, you could tune into the reruns of, I'm really dating myself, the Gilligan's Island, you know, that has been on for 50 years, and see it for the 10th time. You'll know how it comes out. You understand everything. You can repeat the dialogue. But I want you to hear new dialogue. I want to give you a new perspective. I want you to feel uncomfortable, like a nail biter, like watching something suspenseful. How does this turn out? How does it turn out? I don't know how it turns out. Let's tune in and see how it turns out. But that's what I want to do with you. I want you to have an interest in this. No, so when I look at the people, are they shocked? Are they surprised? Do they give a knowing nod? You know, an appreciation for new insight? Are they confused? Do they smile? To lecture on the Dharma, we have to develop a skill set, and this is to some of you that are working your way towards being Dharma teachers, that you have to be able to reach everyone from the very beginner novice to the advanced practitioner, always advising the advanced practitioner that they too are a beginner and a novice. This takes time, patience, compassion, and sincerity to really to deliver the Dharma in a way in which it's meaningful. Not just that I'm occupying an hour of time or that I see this as a commitment. Every time I present the Dharma, I see it as an opportunity to push you a little further towards awakening from the dream. And those who have awakened from the dream, continuing progress to show the more faith you have, the clearer this gets. This is what we do. The Tibetans talk about resting in Rigpa, resting in this clear awareness of the mind. The more and more we practice, the more we see things and utilize it in the present moment, the clearer it gets. And also, we must learn how to learn the Dharma. This is very important. It was very interesting many, many, many years ago. When I was in law school, I was so worried about getting good grades. And that occupied my time. It created stress on me until right around the middle of my second year. And I decided that the best way to get through law school is to get an education, to see how it all worked, to put all the pieces together, not just learn for the sake of passing a test, but understanding it. And it changed my whole perspective about the law and how the law is applied. It was a totally different perspective from one of being a law student to a lawyer. And that's the difference, is that I understood how to learn the law. When I went to a good law school, where everybody that went into the law school, they were straight A students. So you can imagine after the first test, somebody's got to get a B, somebody's got to get a C. And the looks on the people's faces like a rude awakening. You mean I'm not an A student anymore? How am I going to tell my father and all of his banker friends or his lawyer friends or whatever that I got a C? But the law is so much different than that. The law was something that finally came alive to me. And this is what I used when I practiced Chan. I learned how to learn Chan, how to understand it. I listened to say it's beyond words and phrases. Okay, I understand that in principle, that it's beyond words and phrases. So I cannot acquire the knowledge, but I can set forth the foundation to have realizations. And then the next roadblock was waiting for realizations, waiting for something to happen, as if I wanted to turn up the heat on a soup to make it cook faster. And I only just messed it up. You had to have the patience there and the sincerity to practice. And when you practice, in due time, all the things appear. And then what I also found out was that as you practice, the harder you practice, the less you had to worry about, do I have it? Did I get it? Did I get it a diploma? Did I get one of these from the master or one of these? No. Or you don't have to worry about that. You just have to practice. It's okay. You don't need anyone's seal of approval. The mind seal is enough. What is the mind seal? There again, we're talking about apples and oranges, or apples and oranges and something beyond apples and oranges. But it's okay. It's okay to be puzzled about that, quizzical about it. Just have patience. Have patience that in due time it will come, because of causes and conditions. So we see this. We understand from the practice and how we practice Chan that I, for myself, which I really do not like to refer to myself as a teacher, have nothing to teach. It's true. I admit it. I have nothing to teach you. And again, it's like the story of the young novice that was standing before the master, and the master told him, actually, I have nothing to teach you. And the little monk, he's going, but Shifu, why am I learning from you if you have nothing to teach me? And he says, you learn from me until you realize I have nothing to teach you. I've said this one enough, so some of you that are going to be Dharma teachers will remember this one for your own repertoire. But it is important to have that, to understand this way, because it means that we don't stop learning. We don't stop reading the sutras. We don't stop examining the treatises of the masters, but we use that as our foundation. We use that in a foundation that enables us to be able to practice in a proper way. And so it does work, but we have to understand how to learn. So how do we learn is that we pick up these bits and pieces to try to begin to formulate this this puzzle that is actually not two-dimensional, nor three-dimensional, nor fourth-dimensional. I forget how many dimensions the quantum mechanics people have. I think it's something like 11 or 17 dimensions. But it includes all those and some of them that the quantum mechanics people haven't figured out yet. It's multidimensional. We don't have to worry about that. In due time, those things will become self-evident. Self-evident, not in the self as you, but in the intrinsic self nature, as if somebody's wiping off a smeared glass and all of a sudden you can see through it, way beyond this world, way beyond this dream. And you realize that little speck right there, that was this entire world. That little speck on the glass wasn't just the entire samsaric world of you, but the world, the solar system, the Milky Way, and all of the countless galaxies engaged in a beautiful spiraling dance through infinity. It is that type of a realization of the nature of mind. And I'm just using something in a comparison, just like the sutras talk about the sands of the Ganges River, and each one of those sands was a Ganges River, and all the cumulative sands, which would be quite a bit, still don't exceed the value of teaching a verse of the Diamond Sutra. These things are incalculable. And we don't understand that because it's inconceivable, but we have to have faith that it will work. And we apply it in our daily life. And you go, but how do we apply it? I'll get there, be patient. And so oftentimes the Dharma is explained in the ABCs and how to practice, how to sit, to meditate. We should not have thought, but thought is not the culprit. Thought is naturally appearing. Images in the mind are naturally appearing. Sitting to meditate in hopes that all these thoughts will disappear are useless. We just end up into what Master Sheng would talk about is entering the devil's cave where nothing's there. It's just dark. But the mind is not that way. The mind is this lightness, this illumination without an opposite of darkness. Even the darkness of the mind is illuminated in mind. But it's okay. We don't have to try to understand it. We just have to contemplate that, to try to feel our way. Not the senses. The masters talk about shutting off the senses. What they mean by that is not truly to shut off the senses, but shut off the connections there that you believe that these senses belong to you as a self. If the senses just simply go by like clouds in the sky, it's okay. It's all right. And then the mind is clearly seen. It's seen in everything that passes, everything that's past, everything that will pass. How can you possibly hold that in your consciousness? You can't. But in mind, it can. Very interesting. Again, we don't understand it, but that's okay. But why don't we tell people that? Why shouldn't we tell people this is what your practice is? Because most people would say, who is interested in this? Who wants to practice that? Just me? I'm the only one that's holding my hand up. Well, at least Sam got it. Matt, thank you very much. At least a couple of you want to practice that. So, I mean, you should be interested and go, yeah, this is, I don't understand this, but this is good. This is like if you had a puzzle, right, with 6 pieces and you put it together, would you be satisfied? Would you say, this is the puzzle? This is good. I've got it all together. Or would you want something more challenging? If you want something more challenging, stay tuned to these lectures, because it's challenging. It's not a puzzle that can be easily solved, whether we do it 2-dimensionally, 3-dimensionally, or multidimensional, because it is in this way. And yet it magically comes together. So if we teach and we present the Dharma in a way that it's phenomena, teaching phenomena about phenomena, and then we say, well, what is phenomena? What is phenomena? We have to see that. The first thing that I often teach people who have an interest in Chan is, imagine that you have a red apple in your mind. It could have a leaf on it, but you can see it and picture a red apple in your mind. It's not hard to do. Most people know what an apple is. So you can picture a red apple in your mind. And then I say to them, what is it projected on? Our practice is not to see the apple, but to understand what it's projected on. This we don't understand. This we don't know. Some people say it's in my mind. I say, you must have a very big head to hold the whole apple in your head. So we have to try to figure that out. This is actually from the Shurangama Sutra. If you look at some of the dialogue with Shakyamuni Buddha and Ananda trying to go through where he can find his mind, it's very, very profound, very deep. I don't hold it back from people. I give it to them right away. I once did that to somebody that was a newfound friend. I saw the person a week later, and they were like pretending angry at me. And I go, why are you angry? They go, well, where is it projected? I want to know that. I've been thinking about it all week. Where is that apple projected on? And that's precisely what I wanted people to do. They don't know. It's okay. It's okay not to know. It will come in due time. But why withhold that profound when that opened the gate for that person to be able to practice very strongly? My most senior student, Rick Cabrera, he asked me, what is Chan, many, many years ago. And I gave him the most common answer, the Zen answer. What is Chan? Ask the light post. Huh? And so a few years ago, he said, that's how I got into this. And it was something that I wanted to find out. And he said, indeed, ask the light post. I've been asking that light post ever since. This is Chan. This is how you bring people to Chan. How you practice Chan is you have this kind of a balance. You're trying to stay maintained in this reality, but also understanding that this reality is a dream or could be a dream, but that puts you on unstable ground. That's not bad. That's not bad, because that is where there can be movement. If we only explain phenomenal to phenomena, there's nothing to be said about the noumenon, but the noumenon, that which the apple is projected on should be brought into the picture right away. You should be in your daily life and whatever you do, mindful of that noumenon, because you're not separate from it. It is your intrinsic nature. It is the Buddha mind. Likewise, all of the appearances of the phenomena are created by the Buddha mind, but that which is there all the time, which does not have a form, is your true nature, your original face. The Chinese have a theatrical thing of the man of 1,000 faces. I don't know if you've ever seen those performances. They can go like that and change their face so many times. It's almost imperceptible. Well, it is. If they're really good, you cannot see when they change from one mask to another mask to another mask. And it's just that way with the practice. Things change so quickly. But we're aware of it. We slow it down. We can see those transitions. It gives purpose and meaning and understanding to the present moment. We are not out of touch with what's happening in the present moment. Of course, we need to investigate Chan by studying the sutras and the treatises. Very early on, when this was said, there were some people, some masters and practitioners many hundred years ago, they stopped studying just simply because they didn't want to be bound by doctrinal thinking. But it isn't in that way where one doesn't study. It's very difficult for someone to reach the state of Buddhahood in that term. They would call it a praktika Buddha, someone who reaches a Buddhahood without practice, without studying, without understanding. But they are still limited in their understanding and lack the bodhicitta compassion to be able to be a complete Buddha in their practice. So it's important for us to study. It's important for us to do that. But at some point, we study not for our own sake, but for the sake of strengthening our resolve, strengthening our education. So when somebody asks us a question, we're able to answer it or know where to answer it or know who has the answer to it at least. And so we want to be able to do that and to help other people, to bring them to the Dharma. It's not so easy. And people sometimes when they first start and try to explain the Dharma, this profound Dharma to others of right view, they get tongue-tied because it's difficult to do that. It takes time, but in due time, one with sincerity can do that. All of you can do that. And you can teach whatever you know and feel comfortable with. Okay. When we read the scriptures, the sutras and the treatises, that presents to us a foundation for us to practice on. That's something so that we understand. We're not confused. We wouldn't be confused if we entered into a condition or a state of mind, let's say, of unified mind, because we have read about it or heard it from a lecture, and we know that this unified mind is not enlightenment, although it really serves as a great imposter to enlightenment for many, many people. People will become very confused about unified mind and think that they're there. But it is in the study and the practice and working with well-known advisors to keep you from falling into those traps like that. But it's still not necessarily bad. But we have to understand it and continue to contemplate and to practice on a daily basis. And do we dare teach Chan? The ancients referred to these as notions of the horns of a hare, hare being a rabbit, and the hair of a tortoise. as non-existent, but nevertheless, it's something that we still have to practice, because in this world, we don't have those things. But we really don't understand, because when we look around, we knock on a desk, we certify this desk is hard, it's firm, it's here, and I'm right behind the desk. So we say this must exist. But when you're in a dream, no, then are you really there? If I dreamed I was in court, am I really in court? Or if I dreamed I was surfing, am I really surfing? And it isn't in that way, but it appeared to be that I was in there. And it's very interesting, because when we have these dreams, and it's difficult for us to understand that this world is a dream, or that there's multiple dreams. But how many of you have ever had more than one dream in one nighttime, going from one dream to another dream? And so when did the dreams leave off? And if one dream went through, did you die in that dream and were reborn in the other dream? How would you know the difference? It's a change of circumstances. So it's something very, very interesting, because when we begin to apply this notion of the illusion of a dream, a phantasm, to this world, something very strange happens. It fits. It fits, because when we look at things and we see it and we say, this idea of time only applies as long as I have a watch. So if I have a watch, then time thinks, as long as the sun comes up, time's there. And how do we measure time? In the dream, we measure it because there is a sun, and we revolve around that every 365 days. And we have lunar months with the cycles of the moon. But we measure time with our passage around the sun, and the passage around every day, the 24 hours. And so as we begin to see these things, this is how we have time. Would that be applicable in the Andromeda galaxy, which is like 1.5 million light years from here? Think about this. That if light travels at 186,000 miles per second, and how many seconds there are in a year, and how many years there are in 1.5 million years, is a lot. So time is totally irrelevant when we begin to look at things. I mean, when we really see that, but we dream that this world is governed, and this whole entire universe. And if you had a God, would he have a watch? And what would his watch be set to? Greenwich Meridian time? Pacific Standard Time? What would he set it to? It's very, very interesting when you see the things in this way. So even at night, part of my practice is I post the four guardians around everyone. And I start with immediate people all the way to my students, to all the people, until everybody. And in doing so, there's a part of you where Gilbert comes in and says, well, Gilbert, you know that you're going to sleep here, but people in Taiwan are waking up. I said, it's okay, because I'm on Gilbert time, Gilbert Meridian time, not Greenwich Meridian time. Gilbert Meridian time is Buddha time. It's always Buddha time. Sounds like a commercial for a beer, but in any case, it's always Buddha time. No matter what, I'm not applying time from the dream. This is how you live this world. You are outside of those rules. You straddle it like a bodhisattva, 1 foot in samsara, 1 foot outside. Now, I know a lot of you are not going to understand what I'm talking about. It's okay. It's okay. You're in the right place. Because if you understood everything that I'm talking about, there'd be no need for you to be here. But instead, it's this food for contemplation, not for thought, but to contemplate, just to stop Gilbert from talking. Stop this inner discussion or this consciousness that desires this continuation. We sever that. And when we sever that, everything just falls into place. So clearly, so easily. This is living. This is living here. We live with a purpose. We live understanding how this works. We don't cling to the idea of the time, but we're mindful of the time. We're mindful, just as Master Sheng said, that we only have a finite amount of breaths in this lifetime. But then he also said, dying is not such a bad thing, because you trade in an old car and get a new car. It's a good deal. So it's not bad either. But we understand that. We understand that the only way that would work is that we trade one dream for another dream. You don't necessarily follow. Just the current of the karmic forces within samsara, within the dream, follow. In fact, there's no karma there. There's no samsaric forces, because all of that is just governed by the dream. So whatever dream you're in is governed by the principles in that dream. Elsewhere, there's different principles. We can't understand that. It is why one sutra said that there's 50 billion Buddha worlds, we're not talking about Buddhists, but Buddha worlds that could be on a single strand of hair without protrusion, meaning if you looked at that little strand of hair, you would not be able to see, wow, there's a lot of Buddhas on that hair. It's bending down. You would not be able to see that. How can that possibly be? Because it's not governed by the laws of samsara from here. It's governed by mind, and it's an exercise to enable you to escape clinging to this world as a reality, as this ultimate reality or absolute reality, which it's not. It's apparent reality, but it's not absolute reality. So it gives you something to think about that you can't possibly conceive about or to think about that. So it's difficult. And one of the things that I had recently read of in a sutra, that a bodhisattva could snap his fingers and 5 kalpa could pass. So each kalpa is an uncountable amount of time, inconceivable amount of passage of time. And for a bodhisattva just to snap his fingers and have that, how could we do that? Because we cannot relate to it from the samsara world, because it's too hard for us to conceive of this. In this world on earth, the history of time is so minute. Just think about it. How long have humans been around that we could call humans rather than humanoids? Maybe 30,000 years, maybe 30,000 years. I often, when I travel and I meet monastics or people, I will give them a fossil and I'll say, this fossil is 200 million years old. And they instantly understand the reason I give them the fossil. because it's inconceivable to think of 200 million years ago, and yet this earth is so young in comparison. And this earth occupied by humanoids is just one day's bearded growth. That's all it is. Not even that. So when we begin to see the things in the right way, then we're living. We're living because we understand what's happening. We understand how this world works. We understand that is a world that is based on Pratika Samapada. Pratika Samapada is dependent origination. Causes and conditions never fail. You have to have that housed within you. And it is one of the ways that we practice is Pratika Samapada. It is the Buddha's secret mind seal. Because if you place your mind in Pratika Samapada, you understand that everything is constantly changing. Everything is constantly changing in accordance with the Buddha mind. If the Buddha mind has some form of a distortion, it will create a distortion, ergo samsara, and all of a sudden there's humanoids. Now, there could be billions of worlds with humanoids, but we think this is the only one. That defies logic and probability as one begins to see how vast all of the galaxies are, of billions of galaxies. And to think we're the only ones that evolved, this it defies logic. But here we think everything revolves around us. It was even hard for us to take that we revolve around the sun for many, many centuries. But the secret mind seal is understanding how everything works. Unfortunately, we choose ignorance over this intrinsic purity. We hold on to the ego as if it's some kind of a precious jewel rather than a handful of sand. I haven't been able to go surfing for a while. Hopefully this year I will go back to do that, physical conditions permit. But every time I'd go surfing, I would grab a handful of sand and hold it in my hand for quite a while until finally I realized the futility that I could not hold that sand for very long. It is phenomenal. It will just seep right through. That which holds it is mine, but it still will slip through. We have to understand that, but we also have to use that mind to mold whatever we want. That's why sometimes they refer and say that the Buddha's in the palm of the hand, or the palm of the hand of the Buddha is where everything is created. When we understand that, then we can live in the proper way. The idea here that's very, very important, if you really want to know what's precious, truly, truly precious, I'm going to give it to you. Now, you won't be able to go to the bank tomorrow and deposit it, okay? And you can't give it for a pass to your doctor that you won't get sick and die. It won't work that way, but it's still the most incredible, valuable thing that you have. I'll give double value points to anybody who can tell me what it is. Anybody? I know Sam would come up. He's like 50-50 in his guesses, but that's okay. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go ahead and say nothing.
Nothing. A whole big bag of nothing. And let's see what Sam won. He didn't get anything. Okay, next one. What's the most valuable thing in the world? Nobody. All right, Tori, go ahead.
knowing that we all already have the Buddha nature.
And Tori, that's for starters. So you're going in the right direction. But what can you do with that knowledge?
You practice on that.
Okay. So she's right there. We'll take Matt next. Go ahead.
Okay, so I would say, going off of like what Tori just said, forming, your own, laying your own foundation for your own path of life, and choosing the tools and knowledge you gain insight from, whatever it may be, to share that with people, if you will, and it's like a continuation. You teach, you give somebody else insight, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Anybody else? David?
That everything is created by the mind.
Okay. Everything's created by the mind. So how is that something valuable in this lifetime?
In terms,
Go ahead.
just simply in terms of everything, I guess, to know that. And it's even more than just knowing it, actually.
Okay. Anybody else? You guys are kind of all like, Tori came back for a second helping. Go ahead.
Don't take things so seriously. Don't stress out about things. That's so valuable to me, at least.
It's okay not to be right, so it's all right. Sam?
I'll take one more cup of slop, but what I will, or I'll give one. But going off of what Tori said about our original nature is Buddha nature, and all sentient beings are Buddhas. So with the realization that your original nature is Buddha nature, you may show, or at least attempt to show, other sentient beings the path to the other shore.
How do you do that? Jane, go ahead.
Every moment you choose the Buddha mind.
Okay. All right. I'll move to Esther.
Bodhicitta.
Bodhicitta. And how do you express bodhicitta?
Yeah, by acting on it, by having compassion to deliver sentient beings.
Okay. These are questions, or a question that I pose for you to contemplate and play with, which you did. So I thank you very much for all of you that were brave souls that participated. It is moment to moment, the most precious thing that we have is choose the Buddha every single moment. The Buddha's in the present moment. And whatever we do, we choose the Buddha. Then bodhicitta will come. Then the Buddha light will be there. Everything will be there just as it is, because it's clear, but it's the most precious thing. We cannot give anything more valuable than that to the world. This is living. This is truly living. When we're living not just for ourselves. If we choose the Buddha, we become the Buddha. If we become the Buddha, we show the light to others, and people will follow by nature, because it's like a tuning fork. If we're showing compassion, boom, we touch people with compassion, boom. If we touch them with anger, we only spread anger and hatred and greed. But when we touch them with the Buddha light, it's precious. incredibly precious. There's nothing more precious than that we have a choice moment to moment. This is truly living. This is something, if we want to get down to it and say, how do we do this? We choose moment to moment the Buddha. It is not some kind of a romantic story of choosing the Buddha or whatever. It's just the way it is. And it's wonderful because I can see the bodhicitta, and I can see you all developing. You know, people like Sam, I'd still call a novice, and maybe in 15 years, I still call him a novice, you know, if he's lucky. But he steps forward, Tori steps forward. Some of you been practicing longer, you get a little closer to it, but you're still not far from it. It is something that is incredibly wonderful. You have to see what is valuable in this world, not samsara. And it's not just a get out of jail pass for yourself. It's converting this world to a pure land. Changing the world from suffering, even if it prevents us from causing suffering to some individual, to helping a whole group, or whatever we do to set into motion, it is precious. There's nothing more precious than that. I don't care how much money you have, how many spaceships you send up into space, and how many political action committees you have, or whatever you have that you think is so valuable. No. Hotels, golf courses, rubies, diamonds, fancy cars, whatever, that's not precious. That is sloth. That's what leads to greed, hatred, and ignorance. But to have compassion and see these who hold riches as something like that, as pitiable, that we still harbor hopes to change them too. This is important. This is valuable. This is living. And this is what we do. So never forget that. The choice in the present moment is the most important thing, the most valuable thing, and you have it every single day, like a Sintamani pearl, a wish-fulfilling gem. It's not simply a wish-fulfilling gem for you. It's a wish-fulfilling gem for everyone. That's what makes it so valuable. So never forget that part, okay? I'm going to come back in about a year and ask you guys again and see how many of you remember that, okay? Because I was kind of like looking at this and saying, what is living? Why do we live? Do we know? Do we ever think, hold on, what is this? What is this? Will I ever stop? Like all of the wheels that are moving and moving and moving and go, stop. What is this? Who am I? Where am I? What is this? What game is this that's being played here? And it's like playing tic-tac-toe, but you go second. Have you ever played tic-tac-toe? You don't want to be the second person that plays, because you can, you're not going to win. So you have to be very, very clear about what's happening. Stop and think. Take an evaluation. It's never too late to take an evaluation, inventory. Okay, what am I doing here? What have I done? Why have I done it? What now, more importantly, what can I do with the rest of these finite breaths that I have? What can I do with it? Is there some higher purpose that I can use it for? Yes. It doesn't mean that I'm telling you, to turn in all your clothes, wear a robe, shave your head, and and recite mantras for the rest of your life. If you want to do that, so be it. But you still can be a layperson and be productive in terms of Buddha Dharma and in terms of changing this world. It doesn't matter how old you are. Until you breathe your last breath, there's always an opportunity there. We always choose this nest of the ego, and we always want to protect the ego. We have to reverse this habitual tendency of clinging on to the ego and thinking that is reality. It's a castle in the sky. Because if we look at this, like I always mention to you, come back in 100 years and let's have this argument, you're not going to be here. And you may be here, but you may be a wild fox or some other thing, you know, who knows? Or you could be a heaven dweller that's too busy enjoying your life to be bothered to be practicing. But we have to see things in this way. I can see I'm running out of time, and I've only gotten to page 2 of my lecture. So guess what? I think living's going to come up part 4 next week. But I hope that this is something that you are interested in listening to. So how do we? Well, I'm gonna stay there, and I'll save the rest for next week. So it's a continuing of what we're doing in terms of how to practice. And as I do it, I'm zeroing in on day to day. How do you bring that in, and how do you remind yourself to practice? The most important thing I already mentioned, and that was to choose the Buddha. If every moment you choose the Buddha, you can't go wrong. If every moment you choose the Buddha, intrinsically the Buddha will be revealed. Externally, the Buddha will be reflected. Not bad. That's pretty darn good. So let's come back next week. I'll give you more of a day-to-day how to practice Buddha Dharma with right view. So I thank you all for listening, and I will take your questions. Yes, Sam.
Thank you for today's lecture on living, Gilbert. I have found the lectures on living to be most profound because it shows that closing the gap of, practicing or studying the sutras and treating it like it's a theory versus how we actually apply it but something I wanted to share, it will be quick because I have an important question, but I was contemplating the past week what the most fruitful teaching I've gotten from mind work was. And it wasn't a sutra, it wasn't a master's quote or anything like that, but it was actually the way you teach sincerity. And I've been thinking about my life since I've practiced at Dharma Drum and since Michael invited me here. Practicing sincerity in the way that you have explained and taught it has, in a sense, felt the same as how you described choosing the Buddha in each moment, because I realized I was spending a lot of my suffering came from the fact that I was going through my life almost like I was mentally, and excuse my profanity, but I was half-assing it. I would work hard, I would maintain relationships, I would do all these things, but I didn't realize until I listened to your teachings on sincerity how I was really only half present. I was really only halfway there. And through sincerity, this suffering, it feels almost more like a dream than anything before. So I just wanted to thank you for your teachings on sincerity. But my question, I've been revisiting this book from Shifu, which is the setting in motion the Dharma wheel. And I wanted to ask you about, he talks about the contemplation of 12 links. He talks about reverse contemplation. So after you've contemplated it from fundamental ignorance through to the old aging and death, Master Sheng says to then go on to, we can practice reverse contemplation to realize the emptiness. But I was wondering if you could give your words on this reverse contemplation, because I did find some of his explanations just a little confusing.
I have to laugh because in all space and time, I think Master Shen copied that from me. I'm saying that in the most loving way, because I didn't read that from him, but I came to the same conclusion. And it's just a universal truth of backing through it and to get to the source, because that's exactly, Sam, what you're talking about is exactly what we do. Exactly. In the contemplation of mind, we're running back through from death, birth and death, running back through all of the different dependent originations, all the causal links back to when there was ignorance. Before ignorance, that's a Huatou. What is before the word? The word is ignorant. But what was before the word was mind. So we back our way through all of that, and that's exactly right view. Right view is going back through the causal links to the point of where we get to ignorance. Because if you remember what I mentioned about the Queen Srimala Devi's Lion's Roar Sutra, that it talked about the most nescient entrenchment was ignorance. So this fundamental ignorance that's there, that is what starts everything. And so when we sit to meditate, we back through all of these different things. We don't have to have thoughts, sensations, perception, volition, whatever. We're using the mind's own perception, which is different. It doesn't function directionally like the perception, the false perception of samsara. So when those things are taken out, then it undercuts the existence there of the all of the different consciousness, from the 5 central consciousness, sense consciousness to the 6 consciousness, to finally the manas consciousness, where everything is just simply determined. But once that's gone, the ignorance is gone. The only thing that's left is the alaya vijnana, but in its perfect sense, because it's no longer perfuming anything, because there's nothing to perfume, no longer sending bija seeds. It is complete and perfect. That's complete enlightenment. That is as it is before whatever caused the blip of this ignorance. The ignorance was not part of the original face, but it isn't separate from it. We do not know when that started. But I'm saying this because you're following the right track. If you read that part and understood what Master Shen was saying, and you contemplate that, that's good. That's why I'm spending so much time talking about it, because you're on the right track for that. So just keep kind of listen to what I said, go back through and then replay this to yourself, and see where you're going with it. And that will guide you as to what you should be reading next. Okay.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank
Good
you.
question. That's how you do mind work. Nobody else? Oh, come on. David, go ahead.
In choosing the Buddha, of course, I have kind of a very hard time even beginning to understand or contemplate what that even means? Because I'm so used to choosing David through my life and everything. But to choose the Buddha is to choose Buddha mind. But is it possible to go further? It's probably not even possible in this existence to even go further to understand that, or do I just practice it?
Well, that's what you guys wanted me to talk about, is how to practice right view. And that's what I'm giving you. So just practice it. Just moment to moment, choose the best scenario for whatever is arising in mind, whether it's a thought, so you cultivate the right thoughts, speech, or body movement. And so you become aware of it. And becoming aware of it, you're aware that whatever comes out of your mouth is going to have an impact on not only you, but the people around you and the environment. So if you're driving down the road and you have a can of Pepsi, hopefully it wasn't an alcoholic beverage, and you throw it out the window, then you realize that you're polluting the environment. Somebody's going to have to pick that up, or something may be harmed by it. Maybe not now, but if you do that every day, you're going to harm the environment. So you begin to see how you harm the environment by what you say, or whether you say swear words too much. And I apologize for the swear word earlier. It's just, I just wanted to punctuate a feeling about that, but it may be not justified. But you become aware of that, and you see, then I polluted one of you by using a swear word again to Sam, and so I let that come in. But you see how everything changes in the environment by whatever you say or do. It has an impact. So you become aware of that. Just practice. Don't try to figure it out. You're through figuring it out. Just practice it. That's what living is. Okay.
Well, I actually do that anyway. I see that part of it. Yeah. Okay. I thought it needed to be explained up here, but it's in the heart is where I practice it too. So.
Well, that just keep doing that. All right. Don't try to understand it. Just try to practice it.
Just practice it. Okay. Very
That's
good.
that's what I'm doing. Okay, Matt.
This is kind of going back to my, first question from the first lecture I watched with you or attended. How I was saying it can be quite a complex, just Buddhism itself and Buddha Dharma. So I don't know if this is probably the best question to ask you, because I know how you feel about Zen and all everything pertaining to it. But is there a certain approach, like with the wheels of the Dharma? And like, is there like a good starting point as far as like not depicting which like, I don't know, because there's the best way to say it is, I was given a book, Zen Wisdom by the Conversations on Buddhism by your good old buddy Master Sheng, and that's obviously a bunch of conversations of other people's outlooks on his teachings and lectures. So is there any like certain places I should start like with that book?
I think what you would be helpful to you is to see things as they are. See the understand the law of causation, that everything is linked together. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's how this world appears. But then the laws within the world of cause and effect are different than the law of causation. And the law of cause and effect is the same as in the Bible, where they say, if you plant seeds, if you cast them in the farm fields, they'll grow. If you cast them on the road, they will not grow. So you want to create a fertile environment but
Yeah.
you see everything. And then because we're talking about living, is that you always see people that when they're in a parking lot and they want to cut through, they don't go to the end of the parking lot and go, they cut through the bushes. I don't know if you've seen that. And all of a sudden there's a path through the bushes, and then we go, oh, well, here's a path through the bushes. So not mindful of the fact that there shouldn't be a path there. There should be all one solid bush, but we contribute to that because we do that. Or maybe we tramp through the flowers or cut across through and create a line in a lawn because our ego tells us we don't want to have an extra 5 seconds of travel time. So we become mindful of everything that we do, whatever we say, wherever we're at. We understand that our actions, they're calculated in the environment. And one, let's say, small, needless act, worthless act can add up, and it can change an environment, and that's positive and negative. And so we become aware. So we follow the right path in whatever we do. You don't have to worry about getting rid of this vexation or that vexation or whatever. All you have to do is illuminate the path in front of you. So through body, speech, and mind, that everything that you do is just simply the way. It's just this way. It's just that easy to do. Okay. And if you do that, you can't be far from it. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, a Jew, a Catholic, heaven forbid a Protestant if you're a Catholic, but that's a joke. But in any case, in any religion, it's the same. We just have to measure what we're doing. When I say measure, it means that we don't talk too loud. We don't talk too fast. We don't talk too slow. We don't talk in a drone. Everything we do is purposeful. We measure the words that are coming out of our mouth. We measure our thoughts, what thoughts should be there. We measure our body movements. And so our body movements are present so that to emphasize things, but also we're aware of that. So if you're listening to somebody and you're like this, that means you're not really listening because you're waiting for their lips to stop so that this finger can point at them and start telling them things. But all of that is a reflection of what's going on in your mind. How could you not know that? And you see that when people are that way. So you become very, very skillful in living life. It's an art. To live life is an art. We make a real abstract, art about things. We rarely paint a Mona Lisa. And those of you who are ever art lovers, look into how Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. There's so many nuances to it that is absolutely incredible. It's why there's a reason it's a masterpiece. And we paint a Mona Lisa moment to moment to moment, or at least we try. And then when we mess it up, then we try to paint it again. We're not perfect. I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I still try to give people things that are meaningful. That's all you've got to do, man. Just live your life like an artist, like a child artist. You'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it. All of a sudden, all the things that are in the Dharma will begin to make sense to you because that's what you're putting in your practice. Not bad. It works both ways.
Right.
So try that and see where we're at, in another, 90 days or so. Okay.
Well, so far I have a pretty good rapport with Iris. So without trying,
that's good.
She gave me the book, so
she's been around for a long time. So
she's very kind soul.
Okay, good. I'm
Thank
glad
you,
to hear
Gilbert.
that. All right. take
Thank
care.
you. Appreciate it, man.
Sure. Wendy. Where'd you go?
Oh, here. No, I have a question, a practical question about choice. How do you be mindful of your thoughts? How you choose to think? So for Father's Day, I sent my dad a, a happy Father's Day with a Chinese bicycle. Father riding the bike, a child at the back. So he sent me back a picture with says it's Father's Day, give him a break. And it's a kid riding the bike. The dad is having a smoke sitting. So I was thinking, he's saying it's my turn to carry him.
Essentially, that it's this way. Everything is just this way in this world. So when I say that this world is a dream, it doesn't mean that we aren't mindful of the laws of this world, whether they're societal, cultural, or physics laws, scientific laws. We have to follow those laws. And although, like I mentioned, there's one foot in samsara and one outside. The one foot in samsara, we follow these rules. And when we see it, you're stating something from your memory and saying thank you. And he's saying to you, now this is the function. Perfect. It's a perfect, to me, I see that as like this, the two of you expressing love and compassion. It's a wonderful exchange. It's very beautiful. And it's saying that I pushed you, or I helped you, now you will help me, it's now my time to take a break, not bad. So all of these things, when we see them, it is how we live our life. We're mindful, we're respectful to our parents. And we are also understanding, even though we're respectful and filial to our parents, we understand this world's still a dream, but we do our best. Some of the people that I've had that have had parents that are ill, and they used to be Buddhist or whatever they were, but I've talked to the children and showed them how to bring the parents back to Buddhism. And they've had very, very good luck, and then thanked me after their parents passed about how their parents died in a Buddhist environment. And it's very, very beautiful, to see these kinds of things where people can share those kinds of things in this world. So whatever we do, whether we are raising young children or we're raising old people, and I'm one of those where, my kids are beginning to raise me, it's beautiful in terms of that. And again, that's what I was telling Matt, it's art. It's an art of living. And good. So thank you for sharing that, because that's what it's all about. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mina.
Gilbert, thank you for your teaching. I have a question regard to Queen Shimala Devi Sutra. So there are two kinds of wisdom of emptiness with reference to the Tathagatagarbha. So the Tathagatagarbha, that is empty, is separate from and free from and different from the stores of all defilements. And the other Tathagatagarbha is not empty, is not separate from, not free from, not different from the inconceivable Buddha Dharma, more numerous than the sand of the Ganges River. And my question is, the essence of the nature of Tathagatagarbha is empty. The virtue and merit is not empty. Can you
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it is and it isn't. I mean, we neither say that it's empty nor not empty. we just see it as it is and as it applies. So when we talk about the Tathagata Garbha, there's different ways that people interpret that, being the Buddha womb. Some people see the Buddha womb as that which has the potentiality of Buddhahood. I see it a little bit different, which is consistent with the Queen Shrimala Sutra, which is that it is everything, and being everything, it's empty of all things. But also being empty of all things, it's not empty, and not empty in terms of, let's say, going towards a nihilistic way of looking at it. It still has it, so it's consistent with Nagarjuna's apparent reality and absolute reality. It is that which sees it clearly, that everything is created by the mind. And that's the part that's very, very important, is that we understand that this Tathagata Garbha is that which phenomenally everything that appears owes its existence to mind itself. So it cannot be said to be completely empty of all things, but because it is the nature, the intrinsic nature of the Tathagata Garbha, it has to be empty, but it is not in conflict with each other. When we see that, that's why I said yes initially, because when we see that, there's no conflict there. It is a resolution. You are at a very profound level of understanding this, and I really encourage you. I encourage you to keep reading the Tathagata Garbha Sutras and go back and reread this, and even see where you can find commentary on it. If you want to talk to me, I'll be glad to talk to you, because there's very few people at that level of trying to sort this out. It's not just simply reading it and you asking me to explain it. You're presenting it to me in a way that you're trying to sort it out yourself. And that's important. It's not easy to find well-known advisors that will help you with this, but you have to kind of see it. And my response to you may be different than a response to another person, but it's really important that you continue on with this, because this is where the contemplation will come into play, where all of that you've read before, everything that comes in there, then you have to begin to fit that together, rather than having somebody tell you yes or no about it. What I said yes is because that's what the sutra said, and it's clear in that way, but it may not be clear to you. But what I'm saying to you is trust that, have faith in that deep Dharma, faith in the Buddha to keep sorting through that. That's a very, very profound, and that's where we should be going. Not everybody's going to get or interested at that level of practice, but if you don't get it from me and have somebody to help you, who's going to help you? So I really want to welcome people to study at this level so that you can do this, because this level like that where she's at, she will be a great lecturer. Her bodhicitta is really something now, and her understanding of right view is getting there. So I really encourage you to continue to practice in this way. And then if you still have questions next week, bring them back over, okay? Either way, however you do it, I will help you. I've got your back. Okay, thank you very much. Great question. I mean, it's really something, we don't really have the time, if we have another 4 years to talk about it, in terms of it, that would be great. But it's very interesting how to look at that. Some of you are going like, the Tatha what? But it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's like I say, don't be afraid. It's better that you are introduced to something you do not know. Little by little, you come to know it, than to never know it because it's too profound, and we shouldn't be introducing it to people. Why? Why? How are you not going to know how to do that unless you begin to hear about it? That's the best way. It's just like Master Ling Chi said, as I see it, there's not one of you in this audience is incapable of understanding this. So that's good. Okay, anybody else? Last question. I think you beat them all back, Mina. This is a good question. Very good questions again tonight. I thank you all for your questions. There, as I mentioned, there's not anything like a too stupid or basic question or too deep of a question. All of the questions have some way of presenting things that are of benefit to everyone. And the way you hear it and you listen to it, then that's how you do that. And that's good. I mean, if you wanted to learn how to play jazz, you couldn't just get it from a book. You'd have to sit in and listen to the people playing, and then every once in a while begin to take a phrase yourself and be able to do that. That's what Mina's doing. Even Sam, picking up a phrase and playing it and seeing how it plays. And that's good. And that's the art of Chan. That's living. So thank you. I will see you next week. Again, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Invite your friends. And then let them also know that that we're on YouTube too. Okay, take care.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei G.
I feel like the Karate Kid when he says that.